Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Gotham, the latest episode of Van Helsing, as well as the latest episode of Arrow. Like always, if I'm talking about something you don't want to listen to, you can always look in the description down below. I include a time when I start talking about each of the respective shows. So, for example, if you don't want to hear what I say about this week's episode of Gotham, you can skip to what I say about this week's episode of Van Helsing, and or skip to what I say about this week's episode of Arrow. But the first thing I want to talk about is this week's episode of Gotham. So a big part of this episode, as the fact of the matter is, we do have Jim stepping into the captain's seat fully this episode. No one actually fought him when it was kind of cool. Like, I guess just because of the position that Harvey has been in, especially the whole bullet hole club situation. So a lot of people probably were just like, hey, Jim, we're backing you up with this whole situation anyway. So like, because no one was like, oh man, I can't believe that Jim Gordon. I mean, that's always a possibility that comes up in the future. But for now, it seems like everyone's kind of on board. Obviously, Harvey's not still that bad blood between them because Harvey's trying to make it seem like if you just kill Penguin back when I told you to kill him back in season 1, then it's like none of this would be happening. But Jim's like, I would still make that choice again of not killing Penguin because that's not because Jim is already going down that route. Like that's why I'm still debating whether or not that Gallivan thing still counts or not. Because it's like he killed Gallivan, but Gallivan came back, but they died again. But still, you know. It's basically, it's just like, you know, there are things you do, like, you know, there are lines you just don't cross, and Jim, you know, isn't ready to go down that path of darkness before. Again, like, he went down it before, and it took him a while to crawl back. You could make the argument that he's probably still crawling back from it. Because for Harvey, it's like, this, in the city of Gotham, it doesn't need heroes. It needs someone to do whatever it takes to get the job done. But at that point in time, you know, like, Jim doesn't feel like that. He's like, when it's all said and done, the people will follow you. And you have Harvey being like, oh, well, we'll see. Because the thing is, too, when you actually break it down and think about it, it's like, at the end of the day, if you go to those extremes, if you do whatever it takes, that makes you no different from the people that you're trying to stop. Eventually, it's going to wear down, and at what point will you be able to distinguish between what's right and wrong when you've crossed that line so much, you know? So, but this episode took me by surprise with the whole pig situation. I was like wondering what he ended up killing all those homeless people. I was like, what was the purpose of that? Like poisoning them, all the food he was feeding them, and it's like, oh, and then it turns out he's cutting their organs out and cooking them. And the moment I quickly figured out this was going to turn into like a cannibalism thing, but he was like, oh yeah, this is just the first taste. Because he was like talking about the fact is that people are rotted from the inside out, you know, from the bottom to the top of the social class, from the poor to rich in Gotham. And I interpreted it, I was like, yeah, they're rotting from the inside, so you're literally cooking their insides to a certain degree. And it's like a little taste. I was like, you're going to feed their organs to the rich. Pretty brutal. Didn't see that coming. I'm guessing that's part of his character. Like, Pig is a villain I'm not familiar with. It wasn't until the show popped up that I knew that. It's not until like he popped up this season that I like, oh, I never knew this villain existed before. Now it's a very interesting villain, especially like at the like orphanage thing that Sophia was throwing. He was kind of dancing, and as the platelets were being lifted, he's just kind of like dancing and just grooving to it. It's like, you were really he's kind of one of those charming psychopaths. It's like, oh, that's a little charming. I mean, it'd be more charming if the fact is that you weren't serving like dead people's organs to like other people to eat. Because it's basically like, oh, you fed on like the lower class of Gotham long enough, so it's like, why don't you try it yourselves and kind of get it? This is what you've already been doing already. In particular, is referencing Penguin, just because of all that Penguin's ever done, kind of seeping his fingers into every aspect of Gotham over the years. So, but in particular, it's just like, I mean, there was that one moment where that rich guy was basically talking trash because, you know, it's like, oh, why should we eat all these like homeless people's, you know, organs that you served to us for just some orphan kid who doesn't matter? And it pissed off Penguin because that is legitimately turning into his only friend, especially dealing with the whole Sophia situation, but I'll kind of get to that soon enough. But in this regard, it's like, you know, he really cares for Martine, so it was like, obviously he stabbed that dude to like say, shut your mouth, and Penguin was the first one to actually eat it too, which is like, ugh, that kind of sucked. But then he was like, if you don't do it, I will track you all down later and I will kill every one of you. So everyone ate. Fortunately, Sophia was the only one that didn't eat. I was like, oh, that's that's a new level of gross. I just wasn't expecting that from the show. Like, it didn't seem like this was going to be that show that does that. Like I said, I feel like I said, this season's really kicked it up on just like how far they're taking things. I'm sure like things get even more brutal in the comic books. Things tend to, like, the little bit I do know about comic books in general, they tend to kind of be a little more hardcore in certain regards. So this might be kind of par for the course for Pig, in the, comic books or whatever. So hell, even Sophia didn't walk away from this unscarred. She got stabbed in the hand. That kind of took me by surprise. I wasn't expecting him to actually stab her for like talking while she was like, "This is enough," and he just stabbed her in the hand like that. I also appreciate a little showdown between Jim and Pig. Pig's kind of got some moves on him, especially when he got weapons in his hand. I just kind of wasn't expecting him to be able to kind of fight. I was just kind of thinking like, no, you're just going to be like lay in wait type of person, that you're smart, and the fact that you got traps set up. Also, he really loves dressing up as other people. Like, he's kind of like a master of disguise type of thing going on. I feel like no other villain in the show has done that. I guess that's just kind of might be just part of his shtick, so. Because the fact is, he's been kind of a continuous episode villain, because typically villains kind of come and go throughout the show, especially like Scarecrow. He's on the loose, since the beginning. But Jim ended up catching him. But he did say something that kind of caught me off guard. He was like, "Oh, come on, Jim. You're going to ruin everything." I thought he was, I guess he's referencing like the fact is, no, he's like, "Try a little harder, you're going to ruin everything." So I guess he was referencing like this whole situation. But I thought that was him being like, "Oh, I want you to take me down, Jim," but it didn't look like he was happy about being stopped and everything. So hopefully we kind of get to learn more about Pig's whole situation going forward, like why he did become the way he is. Like, the fact is that he did things the way he has, like, it does seem like it is like the corrupt side of Gotham, like the infection of Gotham, like took someone or something or everything precious to him and sent him on this little vendetta. And he thought he found a kindred spirit in Jim, which isn't the case, but still. There is the similarities there because they both want a change for Gotham, obviously, just both going about it a different way. I did appreciate there was this moment where like the reporter's like, "Oh, did you capture Pig? You captured Pig," and everything. And he's like, "Yeah, I did." Because earlier that episode, he had made the promise like, "Hey, the GCPD will catch him." I was like, "Don't make that promise, Jim. Don't." I was like, "Oh, but you came through in the end." And it caught me off guard. It even caught him off guard that the reporter's like, "Thank you, Captain Gordon." It's like, oh. They weren't being like and then he just walked away because it's like kind of what Jim was talking about. You give the city a chance, they will surprise you. Harvey just sees the worst in the city, and the fact of the matter is, Jim kind of sees the light in it. As someone who kind of has a tendency to walk between both lanes of light and dark, I think it's easier to see it kind of in that, as someone who's trying to walk that middle path, which is very much like Batman. Himself, but I mean, that's just my way of looking at it. And ultimately, the other side of things involves the whole Sophia and Penguin relationship, because Penguin is becoming more and more suspicious of her. We already started last episode that he was very suspicious of her, and she calls Gordon to tell him like, "Oh, I think he's on to me," but Gordon was just so like kind of, "No, oh, I'm sorry for you, best of luck," and then just hangs up on her. It's kind of leaving Sophia to her own devices. But the moment Sophia was kind of like later on in the episode being like, "Oh, like maybe the person who did this was trying to do it for the best, had your best intentions, they had the best intentions in mind, that they were trying to help you, separate you from this whole crime licensing system thing you've got going, just because like, oh, the further you get away from it, the less backlash you'll receive from it and stuff like that." Immediately, I thought Sophia was going to paint it on, the guy that works with Penguin, kind of like his assistant. I thought it was going to be like, oh, it's going to make it seem like it's him, so that Penguin turns to him and just, I don't know how she would have done it anyway, like framing him like that, because like, I don't know. But that's immediately where my brain was thinking that. I didn't actually expect her to tell him the truth, but telling him the truth like that makes it seem more realistic, because for Penguin, he says it himself, she's his only friend. So for him, it's just like he wants to give her the benefit of the doubt. Most people, he wouldn't be going as far as he's going, because he has a tendency to lose his temper and just kind of act very impulsive. One of his biggest downsides. But he ended up forgiving Sophia, but Martine, who he asked to keep an eye on her, Turns out he ended up seeing her kissing Gordon. Now that means Penguin's definitely going to be pissed at her because he's like, I'm going to give you a second chance. Don't betray me. And in his eyes, she betrayed him. So I did expect that turnaround like that. I thought it was going to be like, okay, something's going to happen later on and he's going to figure her out. Because like from the very beginning, all she's ever done is try to manipulate him. So because Penguin has the feeling, like, because of because Sophia came at the worst time. If she had come after Penguin, maybe, before the events of season 3, definitely would have been able to hook him. Because after Ed, he's become very distrustful of anyone, especially those trying to be his friends, those trying to be closest to him. So, obviously that's changed to a certain degree because he's bonded with Martine, but I think it's because when he looks at Martine, he sees a lot of himself. Because even at the beginning, he's like, please don't let me be wrong about you, Martine, that this whole situation isn't just something like that Sophia cooked up so that she could play on my weakness. And it's like, you have Martine being like, no, that basically it's just kind of luck of the draw, that basically she was hoping that there'd be one kid that Penguin would end up latching onto. But it's like, there's still a part of me that wonders, because there's that moment in the hallway where it's like, Sophia's like, so what are you writing, Martine? And we kind of cut away from that. So not unless he's acting as a double agent, maybe like a triple agent, I don't know. It just seemed like he is 100% on Penguin's side, at least for now. We might find out more later on, but I doubt Sophia would want to put herself in that position. I mean, to be fair, maybe Martine started off that way, but now that he's closer to Penguin, he didn't want to do that anymore. So that's why he's 100% on Penguin's side. For now, we'll just have to wait and see. But this whole situation has left Jim in kind of a weird predicament himself, because it's like, for him, he wants to protect law and order in Gotham, which you have Sophia being like, I want the same thing. It's like, no, like, I don't know. She talks about all this different stuff about how she wants to run like Gotham like her dad did, but I think it's something that's going to, like I've said before, I said it last week's episode when Harvey was like, I hope you know what the price is going to be that you have to pay for getting this position that you're in. Immediately my brain is thinking like Sophia is going to be that price. Like she's going to end up, like I said, being the baddie of the bad. I mean, I might be 100% wrong. Maybe she ends up being okay, but in my mind, it's just, this is the calm before the storm, before she, once she takes down Penguin, she'll show her true colors. It's like, you wanted a gangster, you got one, so. There's also interesting that whole situation of like Penguin being like, oh, I need you to find a replacement for Jim Gordon as a captain. But considering the whole situation now, it's like, I wonder how she's going to handle that. Like, what's going to happen with that whole situation? Are they going to find like another captain to step in, or what? Are they going to try and destroy Jim's reputation? They're kind of bumping back down. What's going to go on there? What about Harvey? Are things going to get better? For now, I mean, I think this is the worst things have ever been between them, but hopefully given enough time, I think ultimately it will be like that Jim is going to have to maybe turn to Harvey for help or something for this to kind of turn around. I mean, I guess at this point in time, she's kind of being he's being replaced by Harper, because she's kind of stepped up to be kind of more like his partner, more so than before. I mean, that's the whole point. She was supposed to be his partner anyway, so she was kind of filling that role anyway, but I think she's filling it even more so now. So, which even now, we still haven't 100% got a good feel for Harper, but she seems like a good cop. It seems like a reliable partner, so. Then again, it's Gotham. Nothing's ever what it seems in Gotham either, so there's still that, something to kind of keep in mind. So, like I said earlier, I am curious to also see if we're actually done with this whole pig situation, or is there going to be more to it going forward. I feel like there's more to it, but we'll just have to wait and see. And also with Gordon, like, what's going to happen with this whole him and Sophia situation, because it's like he doesn't want to be used, but at the same time, it's like I think he's kind of getting drawn back in. So what's going to happen there? Because I was like, yeah, pulling away, good on you, like Jim. Last episode, he's like, I'd rather stay out here. I was like, yeah, and now it's like this. I'm like, I feel like you're kind of falling into her trap, She says she would never like go against Jim, and I don't know. Maybe it's like I said, a genuine thing. At this point in time, you don't really know 100% where her alliances stand, whether it's with Jim or with herself, or maybe both. I don't know. But also in this episode, we also cut back to the whole Bruce situation in this episode, because obviously Bruce is kind of spiraling out of control, and Alfred's trying to get him to kind of snap back, because he ends up taking him on a trail, basically like him and his dad would have this thing that they do yearly where it's like they stack rocks somewhere and then on top of like a mountain path or something like that. But on the way there, Alfred ended up telling Bruce a story about how him and Thomas first met. It's kind of an interesting story of basically how like Alfred was in a situation that Bruce was kind of in. Like the fact is, Alfred had just come back from war and it just to numb himself for everything, the people, the lives he had taken, all that he had done, he would drink himself like crazy and ended up waking up in an alley covered in blood. He wanted to go to the police, you know, to tell them what happened, not just so he could prove it's like, I didn't do anything, I don't know. It's like, no, he was hoping that they would lock him up because like he wanted to kind of take himself out of the equation. He just wanted to like punish himself for everything that he did, everything he has to live with, you know, essentially. But Thomas wouldn't let him. Thomas was there and was like, okay, well, this is what happened. Which Alfred's like, no, that's not what happened. He's like, it is what happened now. So it's like, for Alfred, it's like Thomas saved his life. He kind of, just when Alfred was giving up on himself, Thomas kind of gave him that second chance. But sadly, it doesn't seem like the story worked for Bruce, because for Bruce, it's like, he can't understand what Bruce is going through, because for Bruce, all he's ever had is the anger about, you know, all he had was his parents' murder, and now that's been solved. He has nothing, you know. It's just Raish was kind of the last piece of the puzzle. I mean, really, it was all kind of dealt with last season because the Court of Owls were the main ones behind that, but obviously they were just a means to an end for Raish. So. But now, like, all that anger, all that he had hold on to, the thing that kept him going this entire time is gone, and now it's just left him empty. It's just like, you know, that's what typically happens with revenge, because once you finally get it, it leaves you empty and hollow. And now you see him just enjoying parties and stuff like that, surrounding himself with people that aren't really his friends. But he's doing all this because he's trying to just make himself feel better, kind of forget, try to be like, that's not who I am. I get almost like, he's like, I know who I am. This is who I am. I'm Bruce Wayne. I'm no hero. I'm nothing special. I'm just a boy whose parents died. I think that's one way of Bruce is kind of looking at him. And it's sad he's treating Alfred like shit too, basically like, so maybe at this point you want to help me out and just stop trying to be my dad and be my butler and clean the place up. And I'm like, wow. Because I was actually thinking, I was like, oh, I'm surprised, like this whole Bruce situation, like, oh, it seems like Alfred might be getting never mind. So we're definitely going to see this, but it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better, this whole situation. One particular interaction I'm expecting to kind of see soon enough in the future is Selena and Bruce, just because it's like you have Selena kind of working her way up in the world, her and Tabitha and Barbara kind of doing their business thing, and then you have like Bruce kind of becoming like that spoiled rich kid that he's never been before, but now he's playing into that just because he's so hurt. But you know, I think that's something we can definitely expect going forward. I'm curious to see what it will be that ultimately brings Bruce out of this, and how long will this last, you know? Overall, great episode with everything that went down. I'm very interested to see what goes down in the next episode. Also, really quickly, I'll add this on because I'd almost completely forgot to bring it up, is that there is no episode of Gotham next week. There will be one after that, so keep that in mind. No Gotham next week. The next episode will be in 2 weeks. So. And now moving on to this week's episode of Van Helsing. Another great episode. This episode was so good. There's so much that went down, so obviously we're going to break everything down bit by bit. Some of the information we ended up learning from Dimitri. Well, for one, at the beginning we saw him getting captured and being he was at the farm. It looked like they were tapping his spinal fluid. For what particular reason? I would assume it has something to do with Vanessa, because it's something that he talked about to them in present day of being like, well, the fact of the matter is, he said the two Van Helsing girls, one who's more vampire than the other. So because that's still the question between what Vanessa can do and Scarlet can do. It's like we don't know what's 100% Van Helsing and what's vampire. Like her need to, like, when she drinks blood, I think that's drinking human blood. I think that's the vampire in her. But like her rapid healing, it seems like that might be an aspect of that too. But it seems like not all of it though. It does seem like that some of the Van Helsing gene allows for enhanced senses, because there's a whole aspect of Scarlet hearing a heartbeat later on. No one else could hear it, but Scarlet heard it too, and they were also super far away. But I think it took Scarlet a little while before she's able to start hearing it too, just because of like her senses probably aren't as adept as Vanessa's. Maybe being on blood pumps Vanessa's senses up even more so she could hear it from that far away. Also, what's interesting too is it seemed like she gets super like high on blood, Vanessa does, but the moment she drank Scarlet's blood, she like there was a new level of just like badass, just chopping vampires down. Her and her sister like fighting. It's like that's so cool. I also appreciate Dimitri getting his hand cut off. Because what's interesting about that whole situation too, going back to it, is it's also interesting seeing Dimitri dressed like that in the 70s and running away. Because you never look at Dimitri as a guy that runs away, but it's like, how did this all happen? How did the government know about vampires? How did they know about the Van Helsings? Like, why is that? Like, was Vanessa's mom a scientist and then they discovered all this stuff about her and vampires at the same time? Has the Van Helsings been like a government secret, like a top level secret for like a long time or something? Are they a protected commodity or something? Especially with the way the episode ends. Like, I know I'm skipping around, but especially that ending makes me think, because no one knows about Scarlet, because Scarlet was possibly a potential, but like even Demetrius like, oh, the Van Helsing that was believed to be dead, so that's why she was never part of the equation. So everyone only knows about Vanessa, because Scarlet was taken away and hidden away to, you know, keep her off the radar, much like Vanessa was adopted, put in foster home and stuff like that, so that she stay off the radar as well. And it seems like it's for this particular reason, for the government to not track her down for whatever it is that, because like whatever it is, her mom didn't want them involved in whatever it is that's going down. We still don't know who that other scientist is, the one that Dimitri wanted dead. We don't know if he ever got him, because I was thinking like, is that supposed to be Scarlet's dad, the guy that adopted her and took her in and raised her, the one who eventually killed himself? But I was wondering if that was supposed to be him, but I kind of feel like that's not the case. I mean, at least not that we know of yet, but whoever he is, he definitely knows about the Van Helsings. He's probably the one in charge of everything now. The moment, like, the whole information about Vanessa came out and Sarah, you know, I always get that confused. Sarah and Doc. I think Doc, Sarah, and then her sister's Grace, right? Yeah. When the moment Grace got that information back in season 1, it was like, oh, like, that's probably when that's when everything was set in motion, but the uprising happened. But then again, Scarlet's dad knew that the uprising was going to happen, so did the government, so they just been biding their time, like trying to track. They probably just couldn't find a good way to get, I mean, because it's interesting considering the fact is they have a helicopter. That says they have access to a lot of stuff. So it's like, where's all this? Like, no one else is flying helicopters or garnishing heavy, like, why now out of any time? Like, in the 3 years during the rising, like, maybe because in their mind they're like, well, Vanessa's dead, but we need to get to her body, but it was just impossible with the rising happening. So did they not know? They only select a few people know. So many questions on that. But obviously a big thing this episode was a whole situation when Axel's like, you bite me or I'm gonna kill myself. And she bites him. Obviously, she has a reluctancy because of her Dylan situation. And then you're like, yes, it worked. And then your heart drops when it's like, no, it didn't work. And it's just, it sucks. And you're like, no. It's like, we were so close, Axel. We were so close. And then the show fucks with you by being like, oh yeah, it hits the heartbeats I was bringing up earlier. It's like Vanessa was able to hear his heartbeat. I'm like, yeah. Axel's still alive. I was like, yeah, because I thought he was going to be a piece of shit, and when she kissed him and then he'd wake up or something, I thought that was going to be it. That was Sleeping Beauty thing, which I love that kind of plays even more, like, especially in that regard. It's kind of interesting because the comic books that this series is loosely based on are under Xenoscope, and from what I've looked up, like, on just some of their stuff, they do, I think a lot of their stuff is like, I think they have like a comic book series of like fairy tales and stuff like that, or grim fairy tales in particular. I don't remember. It's been a while since I went on the website, but it's one of those things like when you put in Xenoscope comics, like that's one of the things that pops up, like fairy tales and stuff like that. So I just thought that's kind of interesting, the crossover. Maybe that's kind of like slight wink and nod. I mean, wink and nod. Wink and nod. I cannot say that to save my life. But luckily that means Axel is back. I mean, I love it too. Like, I waited for you for 3 years. You couldn't give me 3 minutes. I'm like, yeah. Because the whole situation, like Vanessa said, a whole beautiful thing about it. You're super stubborn, but the world lost a great soldier. Heaven got a hero, great hero. And I'm like, oh, that's some beautiful shit. And you see Doc devastated because for Doc, it's like she couldn't say anything because it was like none of this would have happened if she hadn't left Axel. Like everything happened, because of this, which Axel would have preferred. I was like, at least in the back of my mind, I was like, at least Axel would have preferred to have died rather than be a vampire. But it's like, yeah. And I even love later on when she's protecting him because she kind of flips out. She's like, whoa, oh God, because she thought the whole situation with Dylan is, I appreciate what they did with that too. It took something that could have easily just been a one-off thing, but they put that fear in her to make her reluctant to do it because it's like, especially no matter how much her and Axel have had their problems, closest friend she's had during this whole situation because he was like the first person she really got close to when it was all said and done, during this whole like rising situation. But and then he's like, oh, if you wanted another kiss, and she's like, wait, what do you mean kiss? And it's like I guess he was somewhat conscious at the time, but I was like, that's so good. Like it's like, yo, and it's kind of reaffirming what I brought up before. It's like, yo, like Vanessa's building an army. Like of everyone she turns back, she's building an army from them. And it's like, that's so good. But then that once again brings up the question, what is Scarlet capable of? She's like, I've never bitten anyone. I've never, the fact of the matter is she hasn't said anything about it from when Vanessa bit her. So maybe it's a situation of like, she doesn't have that healing factor. I do believe that hunger and that healing factor are all the vampire sides of her, which once again is that has to come from Dimitri in some shape or form. Like, was she one of those test subject babies? Like, did they start with Vanessa, but they never got around to Scarlet? Because it seemed like a lot of that stuff was probably most likely done behind their mom's back. Because it's like, she's like, no, they're not going to be they're not going to be your guinea pigs, essentially. So I don't know. Either it was like a thing where Vanessa, like her mom was trying to have children, and then Vanessa became like came out the way she did. Because it also seems that Vanessa and Scarlet are actually twins, so that's cool. So maybe like during that process, like maybe it's like her and her husband couldn't have kids, and they went about it a different way. Because maybe she was always reluctant to have kids because of the whole Van Helsing thing, which is Dimitri kind of made it sound like that in season 1. So I don't know. It's still a mystery about this whole Scarlet situation, which is also super sad because Vanessa gets taken at the end, by the military group. And it seems like it sucks because Scarlet just got a sister, just found out she has a sister. And it's good for both of them because it's like now they're not alone in this world. Her parents are gone. So is Vanessa. She has lost Dylan. She has everyone else, but this is the closest thing. Like this group is the closest thing she's had to a family in a very long time. And it's like now she has a sister, but now they're separated again. So it's like, what is their plan? Because Vanessa and them had it in their head that like, oh, we're going to track down the Elder because we know where it is. Which the moment Julius heard that, it's like, oh, that's not good. This thing will rain darkness on us. Like, so far, this is the only one. So is he like, the reason why this one in particular woke up, is it because the others are dead? Or is it just because he was like the baddest of the baddest and like her scream tapped into him? It's like, what does he want ultimately is the question. Why was he in a slumber? Was that for the sake of trying to keep him from dying? Because I brought that up, I think, last episode, the whole aspect of like vampires not being able to be immortal. And like I said, that's an interesting thing about the show. Like, I feel like vampires in the show are more like zombies. They can die not easily, but fairly easily. They have a recovery rate, but it's like you do enough damage, you pull them up with enough lead, they'll go down. Especially weaker vampires. I did like the way it looked when Dimitri just picked up his hand. You see the blood kind of soaking between his wrist and his hand, and it's slowly like fusing back together. I thought that looked pretty cool. But because on the flip side of this is the whole situation with the sister, which we still know nothing about them. We just know that the leader Maya was super pissed and was like, Dimitri can go kiss my ass. Like, I'm not helping him, especially after what he did. So. But what kind of caught me off guard was the fact is that dude just killed her. I was like, oh, okay. Like they're bowing down and everything. Oh, he's in the middle of the circle. Oh, she's about to come back and get. Oh no, she's dead. Oh, she's dead. I was like, right, because you're so used to vampires being nearly indestructible, except for like the wood to the heart, like doing something like that. I think I've just watched too much stuff that usually that's how vampires are usually handled. Like. A stake through the heart or sunlight's the only way to kill them. But it's like in this case, it's like, well, it was a wooden cross, and I guess in some way it was almost like poetic into a certain extent. Well, which once again, I don't know if they're vampires or not. They seem like they're vampires, but I mean, like I said, it's so interesting because this season introduced others, like obviously the Skinners and now the Sisterhood. So I would assume that they're vampires too, but they don't look it and seem like, well, they kind of look it, but they don't. I don't know. They are different, and I'm interested to learn about them. I mean, granted, Maya's dead now, just like that. I just love that it's like, oh, you introduce a kid dead. What? Okay, okay. I thought she was going like I wasn't expecting him to kill her too. I was like, she's like, oh, you think you're so full of yourself because you actually think you're getting out of this alive. And I thought that was how it was going to end. Turns out not to be the case. It ended with her death, which now they serve him, who serves Dimitri. So I don't know, man. It's such. I'm very interested to learn about this sister, like find out what it is that they're all about. No, because now I'm thinking about it, they're definitely vampires, definitely like probably the same as like Dimitri and them, but obviously they have to be something special because it seems like for one, they're all female since the sisterhood thing, but it's like he had said like, oh, that the Van Helsing will be the end of us also. They're definitely vampires. Just, I don't know, they just don't seem like it, but maybe we just haven't seen them in action yet. So we may never get an answer to all that. That might just be like, oh, some interesting tidbit of information. Oh, this is all the group of sisters. Oh, well, we'll just never know like what the relation is between them and Dimitri. I'm curious what would Dimitri feel like now that Maya's dead. Well, maybe he'll feel like, well, I got me an army, so that's all that matters. So. And then also another interesting thing about this episode too was the flip side. We had Flash, Muhammad, and Lucky, and there's that whole situation around like, yeah, like basically Vanessa, well, essentially Doc and Julius screwed them over with the whole Wanda situation. It's like, who would do that? I'm like, that's so funny that basically you got middle fingered about this whole situation. Once again, so close yet so far away. But then I also feel bad for Muhammad. He's like, yeah, the shirt's got to go, Mo. He's like, what? Nah, I'm keeping it. He's like, goodbye, teen spirit. It's like, it's so sad because he's had that shirt since the beginning. It's kind of his signature shirt. In his mind, it's his favorite shirt. But I figured as much that the vampire that was following him was Sam, the one that was like cloaked up like that. No one else but Sam is like that. So, which side note, I almost forgot. Like Axel now has been completely caught up about everything that's going down. So also he's not in a situation where they're like, well, you've been turned, so you're gonna have that dreams now too. He's like, well, great. There's this whole vampire situation. There's this whole flip side of things. I don't even know about the whole nightmares and the connection and stuff. I'm loving that that's coming together. Like, I feel like that's going to turn into, like I said, I'm just waiting for that to turn into something else. Cause like I said, Vanessa's kind of building a legion of her own, dude. It's so cool. Cause Flesh can kind of fill the pool as well, but, there's also an interesting thing that Lucky was kind of like, Lucky's not stupid. She's like, I know what you're doing, Muhammad. You're about to go off and get high off, more cocaine. Which she's like, yes, I get it. You're doing it for your pain, but it's like he's starting to get addicted to it and everything. And that's going to turn into an issue, something much bigger than just pain. Because eventually he'll turn into a liability because of that. Well, because it's like, well, he'll be trying to do whatever he can to fix his habit. Like the moment the bullets are going off, I was like, please don't tell me something stupid happened like Muhammad ended up killing her just because he's officially lost a damn mind. It's like, okay, no good. Sam got him. It's not good, but it's better than the alternative, which is like, oh, that sucks. Because Flesh and, well, Muhammad knows about it, but I don't think Muhammad's explained that to Flesh yet about the whole Sam situation. I don't think so. I was halfway expecting him to attack Flesh, but of course the first person he would go after is Muhammad because he's obsessed. So, like I said, man, overall, such a great episode. So much craziness went down. Like I said, Vanessa's been taken, so now they're gonna have to work together to try and track her down. Maybe they'll eventually meet up with the other group, try and take down Sam, which I don't know if that's gonna be possible. I'm curious to see what that whole situation goes between Sam and Muhammad. Like I said, I'm so interested to find out about this government thing, like what their connection is in all of this. Like, were they in this from the beginning? Did they come in partway during this whole Van Helsing situation? Like, what is Vanessa? Like I said, there's the half vampire, half Van Helsing. So what does this elder want with her? Is she the key to his like full resurrection or what? Is that key connected to getting to the elder too? Because it's from the drawings from that room, that mountain in particular. So it's like vampire being sealed in a mountain. That seems like some super level of like, you don't want to mess with this because this evil was so evil that we had to lock it inside of a mountain type of thing, bury it in a mountain or something like that to keep it from spreading its poison everywhere type of thing. That seems like some ancient evil type of sealing up. So this thing can't be good. I mean, that's not to be surprised considering the fact is that even Demetrius scared of like his elder. So like, I'm so curious to see what goes down. Also, do note that there is no episode next week. The show will return in 2 weeks, so do keep that in mind. And now moving on to this week's episode of Arrow. This is a great episode that had a lot of surprises in it. I didn't expect the whole, like, I knew it was eventually going to come back to bite Diggle in the ass, the whole, like, drug situation, but I wasn't expecting it to come back in the shape it did. It was like last week's episode with the whole agent, Watson asking a lot of questions. Like, it was after the recording when I started thinking like, oh, she's eventually going to find the ties to that drug to Diggle, wasn't she? But it's like, no, it turns out what ends up happening is that they end up going against the guy who ends up making the drugs. His code name is Dragon, but his real name's like Ricardo Diaz, played by the actor. I'm familiar with his name, which I feel so douchey about, but he played Charlie on Fringe, and most recently, obviously, Ramsey on 12 Monkeys, the TV show. So that's pretty cool. I love how this whole situation puts Diggle in a very compromising position in the sense of, like, the fact is, he's so reliant on this drug to be the Green Arrow that he's willing to let, like, one of his biggest attributes, and that's him being kind of the moral compass. Because anytime Oliver has a decision to make, like, helps, like, Diggle's the one that kind of helps point him in the right direction a lot of times. In this regard, it's like now Diggle doesn't really have that, especially because he hasn't told anyone the truth. I mean, he ends up explaining it to Lila, which Lila was like, okay, I'm grateful you told me. And she ends up finding out, like, you've been taking the drug and you're willing to let this guy go because you're like, okay, the drug can stay on the street for a little while longer until, like, Argus finds a way. And it's like, really? Did those words really come out your mouth, Diggle? That sounds like some... It doesn't seem like the drug is as addictive, but it has an addictive aspect particular to Diggle because Diggle, like, has this responsibility because he feels like he owes it to Oliver. Oliver brought this, like, Oliver relying on him to be the Green Arrow because it's like, this is Oliver's chance to have a life with his son, obviously with everything that's going down too, but more so than anything, like, Oliver chose he wanted to be a dad before being a superhero and stuff, and Diggle, like, he felt like, no, I have to live up that Oliver's expectation. Oliver believes in me, I can't let him down. Hence, he keeps up this whole lie and everything, so... Which also answered the question Lila had no idea about the whole, like, Tremor situation, and especially the whole drug situation. But the fact is that Diggle was willing to be like, now let's let them go for a little while. It's like, she's like, are you crazy? Like, the fact of the matter is, and how long do you think it would take, like, in that time that you're waiting for Argus to find an alternative for you, and then you can take them down? It's like all the people they'll kill in between. Are you really okay with that? Because she even calls him out because it's like, Diggle, you get on me about some of the questionable stuff I do with Argus. And it's like, once again, it's like, you're the moral compass and, like, you're doing this, you know? Pointing out his hypocrisy, you know, in this particular situation. And it's just like, you've never seen Diggle like that. And especially when the facility went up and he was staring at the drugs and it's like, dude, it's like, I was halfway expecting him to just run over and grab a few. Because he was saying, even to Lila later on, he was tempted to do it. Because this all goes back to what Dinah was saying, like, you're being a liability to the team by not telling the truth. Because it's like, not only is he not in a position to be out in the field and fighting, but also this particular situation is just like, his judgment's impaired because he was so focused. He was like, there was a part of me that's like, if I didn't get that, I might as well run into the fire and die. It's like, that's hardcore. Like I said, that's almost some addict stuff. Maybe there's a aspect of addict to it, but like I say, it seems like it's more, the addictive side of it is more so like, maybe it's Diggle gets the thrill of being Green Arrow and it's just like keeping up that mantle, keeping it alive for Oliver's sake. I think it's just... all of that. I'm curious, like, when it's all said and done, how will Oliver feel? Because Oliver might, you know, feel bad because it's like, I put all this pressure on you to be the Green Arrow, and I shouldn't have done that. That wasn't your burden to like me to give off to you, you know? So, which I mean, Diggle would gladly do it because that's like his best friend. That's, you know, Oliver's like his brother, and it's like he understands why Oliver is giving it up, and that's for his son. So it's like, I mean, something Oliver had brought up too. Like he's like, I didn't even think about, like I was so busy passing off to you, I didn't think about the fact is, well, what about your family? What about your situation? I was so caught up in my own situation. So, and because as we know, that's one of Oliver's specialties, kind of taking everything bad and just like pelting himself with it, drowning himself in his own faults and stuff like that. So ultimately, at the end of it, he has come clean to everyone. It's so interesting because it's like Curtis points out, he's like, why didn't you come? Like, he's like, I'm so disappointed. He's like, I understand. He's like, no, why didn't you come to me? I literally got a lady to walk again. I was like, right. I was like, right. That is a thing. And that literally popped up last season as a storyline because her chip was damaged when the Chase set the bunker up to leave them kind of trapped in there. And just Oliver and Felicity and her chip didn't work. And I was like, right. I kind of forget about that sometimes. And I also forget that that's the whole purpose of the business venture that Helix is going to be for Felicity and Curtis. It's like manufacturing those same chips that let her walk with. It's like, well, of course you should have gone to Curtis because he's like one of the smartest people on the team, so he'd be able to handle something like that. Plus, there's also, I mean, I guess you just felt a little embarrassed. I mean, we haven't seen any crossover between, well, no, because there was the whole Felicity went to Central City. I was about to say, there's people at Star Labs that could have hooked you up too, so, but Diggle's kind of a prideful dude. He doesn't really like asking for help, especially in this regard, because it's like, to him, it's like, this is his fault. It's something that's his own situation that he found a fix for, and he thought he was okay, but now that fix turns out to be very bad. So I'm very interested to see where that whole situation goes from here. They did point out something else interesting too, because in this episode it was like, well, Dragon didn't always have like the team he has. Like the team he has now is like a very professional team, so it's like someone else is backing him. Immediately it's like, well, could it be Caden, or is there someone else kind of mixed up in it? It's like, is he like the brains of the operation, or is he just kind of like the face of it? Like, is there a new, like, he's a new player in town, but is there someone above him and everything? Maybe this is tied to Caden, maybe it's not. He seems like the only one that's around bankrolling a lot of people, but we'll kind of have to wait and see. And I love that John was like, yeah, thank you, Curtis. He's like, no, it's an honor. It's a pleasure. And you have Renee walking by, kiss ass. I also brought Diggle up. Diggle also brought up like him and Dinah, because like they had a whole conversation before, and it's like, I lied to you again, but from going forward, no more lies between this. And she's kind of like nods and says okay, then walks away and looks at the present she got from Vincent. Wasn't that last episode? Yeah, last episode. So obviously he's still kind of lying there, but I'm sure, I think it's going to be kind of similar to the whole Diggle situation, in the sense that she wants to handle it on her own. It seems like they're like, to me, out of anyone, they seem like, I don't know, a lot of people on the team are very prideful in the sense of like, if it's something that's their own situation, that they feel like they should handle it, they shouldn't have to bother the team. I mean, even though Diggle's the one that was like, oh, look for the good in him, but maybe she feels like it's not a worthwhile thing getting a team involved, because if Vincent turns out not to be the man that she thinks he is still, then it would just be putting the team in danger. So maybe it's something like that. I don't know. We're going to kind of have to see what Dinah decides to do going forward. And obviously on the flip side of the episode, we have the whole Kane, or Joe/Kane and Slade situation. I do appreciate what they did. Like, I do like that. Like I say, it's not a continuous thing, but we are kind of getting it periodically throughout the season. It's flashbacks, and they're being used to kind of tell other people's story. In this particular case, Slade. We're basically finding out what happened to Slade after the events of Lee and Yu, after Oliver, quote unquote, killed him. And it's like he ends up getting rescued by ASIS, and they and he's reunited with his son. So him and Joe have met subsequently since, like, you know, he went on the whole Lee and Yu situation, which I'm still not 100% sure about that whole time frame, because like Joe was still a kid at the time when that happened. Like when he got the information, like I said, I think that whole mission eventually led to what went on down in Lee and Yu. But I'm sure there was even more time frame in between there too. But nevertheless. before maybe he got the orders to pass down and go on that mission or whatever to land you. But I love how this was beautifully done in a sense of we do see that this is him. Like at first I was like, oh man, he's acting like a normal person. I was like, oh, he's not acting crazy. Quickly disappeared because eventually, I guess after that attack from Oliver, it just kind of nullified the Mirakuru in his system for a little bit. But eventually it came back stronger than ever. He's seeing shadow and his rage is getting consumed because immediately he's thinking more and more about Oliver, and it's just like, it was Oliver's fault. What did you promise me, Slade? Promising that basically he would destroy Oliver, kind of make Oliver, basically what he did in season 2 was make Oliver pay by making Oliver lose everything that's important to him, just like Slade did, you know? So obviously that all being the Mirakuru in his system, obviously Kane at the time really didn't know about that, especially when you had Slade going crazy and basically massacring everyone in that training facility, covered in blood. It's like, I think he probably barely held himself back from killing his own son in that regard, just because that was the Slade that we saw in season 2, you know? So it was like, that's what's almost weird seeing him at that beginning, like, whoa, that's not the Slade that we, and it's like, because it had slipped out of his system. Like I said, maybe that jolt that arrow did to his eye, maybe it did something to his system where like Mirakuru just kind of, you know, maybe he was kind of, you know, in a coma for a while, so its effects kind of slowed down or nullified, but immediately boosted back up. So, because now this whole situation turns into Slade and Kane, because it's like, for Slade, it's like everything he did, like a lot of the terrible things he did was because of the Mirakuru, but like what Kane is doing now, willing to hurt people, doing everything he can with the Jackals, that's not from Mirakuru, because you had Slade wounding one of the like soldiers they were stealing the stuff from and shoot him in the leg, but then Kane went over and killed him because it was like, we don't leave witnesses. Like, just showing you how cold-hearted he is. And the reason why he's like that is because of anger towards Slade, and it's consumed him, because in his eyes all he ever wanted to do was be like Slade. Because he ends up confirming what I already figured last episode, was the whole fact is that he was there when Slade killed that spy all those years ago in that camping trip they went on. It's like, I figured as much. Especially the way he was acting at the end of the episode. But it seems like Slade never knew. He never revealed that to him, and it was kind of like the stepping stone to how Slade was acting with the Mirakuru in his system. It didn't matter, because to him it's like, even before the Mirakuru situation, you were a killer. Like, he already saw that. Yes, it was for the government or whatever. You were kind of basically a hired hitman for the government, but it still didn't change the fact is that you killed people, and seeing that side of him changed his son forever. He even said that like 6 months after that, he ended up killing for the first time. And it's like, it wasn't just Deathstroke that gave birth to Kane. It was just Slade in general, who he was. The fact is that he took his son on that camping trip. And it's like, that's a situation of like, if he had done things differently, how would things be right now? Would, you know? Because, I mean, for him, he felt like the only way he could resolve this situation is he had to kill Kane. Like, to him, it's like the man that, you know, because like when he was hearing Oliver talk about his son, which I was like, wow, is Slade really about to do this? Like, but then it's like, no, it was all an act. But even Oliver said, yeah, that act was a little too convincing. But it's like, he's like, for a second, there was a part of me that wanted to do it just because my son was there. And for me, that's all I saw. But then hearing Oliver talk about William made it go, no, that's not. Kane is not Joe. Whatever was left of my boy isn't in there anymore. But you have Oliver being like, don't give up. Because the fact of the matter is, you are a good man. Because like even before the Mirakuru, like Oliver saw the good man that Slade was. We, as the audience, saw that man too. So he was hoping that maybe he could get through Kane like that, but sadly not. Just Kane's so furious with his dad. Just everything he is and everything he represents is just, it pisses Kane off, I guess, because now Kane is kind of a reflection of everything that his dad was, you know. Even though, you know, Slade isn't that man anymore, that monster still existed long enough to corrupt his son, and there might not be any going back from that. Maybe there is. We just kind of have to wait and see. We do get revealed about Slade's other son, Grant. I'm assuming that's the one from Legends of Tomorrow that we saw in like 2049. Because I was wondering about that, because I was like, oh, that's just kind of interesting. But because it seems that basically their mom wanted to protect Grant from Slade, so he didn't even know about his other son. But in this regard, it's like I guess in her mind, maybe it was too late for Joe, and because even Joe was like he wanted to be like his dad, so it wouldn't have mattered, you know. So maybe in her eyes it was too late. Maybe she felt like she couldn't reach him anymore. Like he'd been around Slade too long for that. Which once again, we still don't know who his mom is, who Slade's wife was. I mean, luckily the situation ended with the Jackal's plan being taken care of, which is still pretty. It's so cool when you get to see Oliver kind of fighting, like the fact is using a gun and even like fighting with a knife. Like he's kind of getting all close quarters combat with it. I mean, because it's interesting when you see him fighting without his gear, like without a bow and arrow in hand, because you're so used to that being a part of his fighting style. Which, I mean, to be fair, the show has shown him plenty of times in the past, like fighting without his gear on. So, but we do see Slade leaving. Don't know if this is going to be one of our last times seeing him this season or whether he'll pop up more, but definitely he's going to go out there to find both his sons, you know, try and make things right with Kane as well as being Grant's life, which obviously if 2049 Star City says anything, that doesn't necessarily work out well, that ultimately he goes down that path. But hey, that's the whole point of this, like to know that the future is the future set in stone, or can it possibly change? There's a lot of things that have shown us kind of like, I don't think that's the case. Like, I mean, it seems like things are set in stone, which are like, with that in the back of your mind, you're like, that's super depressing to think about where things end up. Because ultimately, too, that means like John dies, you know, because that leaves John Jr. to kind of handle all of that. And it kind of cemented in my mind even more when we saw Diggle hugging him this episode. I don't know why, it just hit me even harder. I'm like, that's becoming more and more, it's going to become more and more true, isn't it? But once again, we'll see. Time is always an always evolving thing, so we'll see whether that's what the future really has in hold. Maybe there is a possibility for more. You know, considering the fact of the matter is that was all in a grand scheme of things. Time travel and stuff like that. You know, that's before we as the audience knew that Oliver would turn to Slade eventually down the road to help him rescue William. So obviously, like, Oliver was willing to give him a second chance after everything that Slade's done, turning the city upside down, killing his mom, which is still one of those things like, I can't believe you're working with a man that killed your mom. Once again, I previously used it. Like, let's not forget he's worked with Malcolm, who worked with the undertaking, that killed Tommy as well as a lot of people. There's also the situation of him trying to, wasn't it Genesis? Isn't that it? The whole Hive and Damien Dark situation back in season 4. He was kind of going for that too. So plus the League of Assassins situation, especially because Oliver screwed him over in that regard with the whole Nissa situation. Obviously, you know. So I'm curious to see what the future has in the whole with that old situation. But Oliver is back home. I did appreciate the fact is that Felicity and William were playing Injustice. Just it's too meta. It's too meta. I'm not sure which one that was. I would assume, looking at it, that might be 2. I could be wrong. I would assume 2 since it's the most recent one. It'd be weird if it was 1 because, as you know, like in 1 you can play like one of the skins for Green Arrow in 1 is the Hood from Arrow, like probably him from like what season 1, 2, or 3, basically. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But I'm like I said, I'm pretty sure it's Injustice 2. So Felicity and Oliver haven't gotten the news yet about the whole Diggle situation, which I'm curious to see their reaction to it. So like I said, I'm curious to see what their reactions are going to be to that. And I saw the previews to the next episode. Obviously, I won't get into it, but things are definitely going to take a very interesting turn next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.